You're watching The Experience, Comic Culture and Sales, streaming live daily to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter.
Hey everybody, how are you? You'll see that there are no books on the stands right now, and there's a reason. We've got something serious to discuss for a minute. We're all a community here, and we all love each other. The Experience wouldn't be anything without you guys. And you guys are really the heart and soul of this. Speaking of which, with a heavy heart, sorry, we got the news yesterday morning that Monday night, Ronald's wife passed away. It was sudden. Ronald's an important part of the community, as everybody is. And we wanted to just keep him in our prayers. I cannot even imagine what he's going through. To be that young and for her to leave him. And it's just a really, really, really unbelievably trying time for him. And again, I can't even imagine. And we would feel the same way if it happened to anybody on the Experience. So I'll start off real quick and say, you know, Ronald first came into our lives being one of the funniest guys we've ever had, always making jokes, being really supportive, and just like everybody, like I said, he was just a big part of the community. It's devastating. It's devastating. Getting that text from him Tuesday morning just was out of nowhere. Creative Keep also was in touch with Ronald. John, we're gonna send him flowers from the Experience. I just wanted to give him a day or two. When he texted me on Tuesday, he just said he didn't know what to do, what he was going to do. So we just wanted to give him a little bit of breathing room. So we're going to take care of that here. I mean, like I said, Ronald is pretty much here since, you know, day one or in the first few months at the very least. And, you know, he's brought a smile to all our faces. We never met. None of us have ever met, you know. Ironically, or maybe not ironically, you know, Kyle got to meet Ronald. So somebody at the Experience met Ronald. And Kyle could not speak more highly of Ronald, more pleasantly of him. And Ronald is just a great soul, you know, part of the community. And he really gave, thank you, Sean. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
John, Stevie B, CJ, Jay, everybody. Wow. That's really nice of you, John. We'll make sure that is taken care of. He did, Ronald definitely, I mean, you guys tell me, didn't he help make this whole thing more of a relaxed show, more of a, like, we can rib each other, we can have fun together show?
We talk about building a community, right? If we did, Ronald's like the first guy that moved in that I can remember, right?
Yeah.
We had a few
Easily.
people. Yeah. You know, I can't imagine people who are married or, you know, with someone for a long time. I don't, you know, I mean, I feel bad. Ron, you hear this later on, reach out to someone if you need to, want to. No one wants to pry or push.
I know a lot of people in the community, like Creative Keep, have developed relationships with each other on their own. If you have, you know, probably wouldn't hurt to reach out to Ron. As John was saying, as Nick was saying, I remember Ron being one of the first ones.
Yeah.
I literally first show. And we had a bunch of people, and not all of them stuck. We had a couple that, you know, just kind of disappeared. And Ron, along with a bunch of others, like Stevie B, John Spillios, all you guys, just been around for a really long time. And look, we're not dealing with earth-shattering stuff here on the show. Our main purpose is if we're entertaining you for a couple of hours on Monday and Wednesdays, that's great. But unfortunately, sometimes in life, real life stuff occurs, and this is one of those instances. And I feel so bad for Ron when I obviously was out Monday, and when Nick told me, I was just like, I really was flabbergasted. I was kind of caught in my own little world, some dental issues, and that's what was really on my mind at the time. And then, Nick called me about something else, and then said, oh, by the way, I don't know if you've heard, Ron's wife passed away suddenly, and I was floored. I mean, all of a sudden, all the things I was worried about over the weekend.
You don't know how to process something so sudden like that.
Well, it made me feel like, well, to be honest with you, what the hell are you whining for, Rex? It's a damn tooth.
Yeah, that very much brings it home.
Yeah, it was painful, though. It still is kind of. But
no, it is.
It made me think, like, just shut the hell up, Rex. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
I don't even know.
Thank you, Preston.
Preston, I'm writing all this down, so I know we'll figure out what to do. I don't know what we're doing and how to do this. And
at some point, I guess Nick will decide how best to handle this and make an announcement on the show.
But I mean, Amy did a lot of interacting with Ronald too. I mean,
I have the art he sent me. I have it hung up in my apartment. I love it.
I mean,
I have one
of the greatest things
and
is
Ron
will send all of us, like, email us jokes. And I'm not going to lie to you, not all of them were hilarious, but the vast majority of them were pretty funny.
Yeah.
And they were pretty long. I mean, they were like 2-3 paragraphs long. So he spent some time typing this up in an effort to kind of cheer us up. And it works. Most days it does work. Sometimes he throws out a lame one.
Yeah. But anyway, Amy, sorry.
Yeah, go back to what you were saying about the art.
I remember
he sent me two pieces of Nightmare Before Christmas art that he got over the years. That was incredibly generous of him.
Yeah.
Incredibly generous of him. I'm always going to be thankful, like he sees that and he thinks of me. So, like, anything Nightmare Before Christmas he thinks of me, that's very nice. So I have the art hung up in my apartment now, so I see that stuff, I'll think of him.
I can honestly.
I want to be there any way I can, because grief's not easy, but I just know from personal experience that you got the right people behind you. You can you work it, you work through it. It's not going to be easy, but you work through it.
Yeah, I mean, the weird thing getting that text from him, I read it, and the first thing I thought is, where's the punchline? Like I'm reading it like it's one of his daily jokes, and I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah.
I'm like, text and email have no context, but when somebody says, I don't even know how to process this,
it's tough.
You can feel that,
If we're having a hard time processing this, I can only imagine what he's going through. I mean,
well, and again, it was really, this is not the way you want to ever start a show. These shows are supposed to be escapism. We're here to make you guys happy, but it felt weird doing the show without talking about it, without telling you guys about it, because again, you guys are a big part of the show. Ronald's a big part of the show. So not talking about it felt like not talking about a family member.
Yeah, it was almost like dishonest or something. Like, wait, you're not going to talk about
it? Cold.
Yeah, real
cold. It would have been, and we were up the
last thing we want to be ever is cold. You gotta let someone know you have that support, because otherwise it will seem like you don't care.
Yeah, and it's not a great way to start a show, but considering we've always talked about how this is a community, and we adventure together and we end up sharing in each other's lives. And weird, you're coming in on the downside. Just hitting you right now is Ronald's wife passed away Monday night. So, and we're just talking about it right now. We're not focused on selling. And if anybody wants to, like, one of the good things to do, if anybody wants to throw up any positive thoughts about Ronald, like, what he's meant to you as being part of the community, please feel free. I mean, for me, getting his jokes was a huge part of it. Some of them were funny. Some of them were
Not less than.
some of them were
They were all from Ron,
insanely funny.
Yeah. It was clear that Ron had a very close relationship with his wife.
Yeah.
He made her part of the show.
Well, he was the first one to joke about it. And that was fun. I mean, that ended up providing us with hours of entertainment. And everybody else jumped in, with the whole hiding from your wife thing. But clearly, they and I have no idea how old Ron is. I gather that he's older than I am, and clearly he and his wife have been together for a very long time. I mean, obviously, he kept buying comics by his own admission, never actually reading a comic, and his wife clearly had to see the comics. I mean, we were shipping boxes, like he was getting 3-4 boxes from us every week.
Yeah.
The woman, had to have seen, what is this? Another box? So, and yet, it was clear there was something there that obviously, probably been together a very long time.
Yeah, Creative Keep had built up a relationship with Ronald too, and he emailed us asking for the address so he could send flowers as well. So, I mean, that's all we could do right now is just be here for each other.
There's not much anybody can do.
It's just it really reinforces. Not everybody checks out the Friday show. I mean, there's only so many shows you can watch, but and Creative Keep said this, I think, today in his email. Where on Friday I say hug your loved ones. You just never know, and it's the truth. You're getting a lot of dead air here because I mean
it's just
the desire to do the show is not here, but at the same time, you guys are going to have to. But we have to talk about this first. This is more important than anything.
Well, it would seem just awkward to not do the show or to start the show with, "Hey, everybody! Today's first book is," you know what I mean? You said it. There's no good way to do this. This is the best of the bad ways to start the show.
It's the most respectful.
Yeah, Gabe.
I hope so.
Yeah, not great news to tune in and find out, I'm sure. So, and we'll probably touch on this as we go along, and I don't obviously expect to see Ron here tonight.
I'm sorry for the shock for people, but again, there's really no good way to, everybody huddled and figured out.
You can't dance
around. We're not Vince McMahoning this.
I don't know how to, there's nothing.
The pay-per-view doesn't go on without acknowledging everything.
Yeah, it's unfortunately part of life, and we got to remember that part.
And like I said, if anybody wants to mention anything that they really loved about Ronald, the rest of the community, if you want to pop something in, I mean, this is, if Ronald does catch this later, maybe this helps. I don't know.
No, it really is one of those things you take every day as it is. You don't know what could ever happen. It's really sudden things like that. You need to appreciate what you have in front of you, and you need to take in those moments. It sucks that it happened, but the time he spent with her is probably fantastic. The way he always talked about her, the jokes. I mean, the fact that he had those running jokes. Everybody said those running jokes about his wife's watching with a taser. Like that shows the type of relationship that they had, that they were tight like that. Yeah. So it really is like you said earlier, hug your loved ones, hang out with them, spend time with them. You really never know what could happen. So you got to take every day as it is and just appreciate what you have.
Yeah, I mean, Tuesday when I realized he sent me something serious, I'm sitting there going, he was on the air with us last night. This happened after the air.
Yeah.
And it's just.
John Spilios.
I remember that.
Really nice story.
Yeah,
I remember that too.
Yeah, that was really nice of Ronald.
It's a testament to this community. When John Spilios was going through what he was going through, I think everybody jumped in, and with Ron going through what he's going through, And I guess maybe that's the difference between this show and a lot of shows you see on TV or on YouTube rather, where it's really just singular purpose, strangers in the chat, whatever. But clearly, obviously, with our shows, it hasn't been like that, and we see the same people week after week, week in and week out, and you begin to develop a relationship with these people. And we look at Ron, we look at John, all the other guys, CJ, Triple B, all these guys have been there since the beginning, and we look at you guys that way, So,
hey, Anvu, John Stout, real quick. So, Ronald's wife passed away Monday night, so we're starting the show talking about that instead of going into the sales. We just thought, I'll repeat what I've said a few times. We just thought, every member of the community, everybody who comes in to watch the shows, you're all family, and the experience wouldn't be here without you. And we felt it odd just doing a sales show and not bringing it up. And we know that this is a downer to be talking about, but on a couple of levels, we all treat each other like family. And I thought people would want to know. And if Ronald does look at this one day, I'd like it to be something that brings joy to him, the fact, because we care, and he should know we care.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he knows we care, but knowing you care and seeing people care, I think sometimes can be two different things. I don't know. Is Kyle lurking? Kyle, when I spoke with Kyle today, he said he may hang around. JD, is Kyle here? Because Kyle actually met Ronald, so if he wants to tell a story.
He is not. Unfortunately, he's still recovering from COVID, and the hour talking in the previous show, he just tore his throat up. So,
okay. I don't know if Ronald has kids. I don't know that we ever.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think
I gathered, and I don't really have any evidence to back this up, but I gathered that Ron and his wife were kind of older, so I would kind of believe if they had children, they would be adults by now.
Yeah. No, I get the feeling Ronald was in his late 50s, maybe early 60s, which is still young.
So, but again, I don't know any. This is not based on any evidence I have.
Right. Right.
But, I get the feeling that if he has kids, they are already probably grown or close to ready to move out of the house. Because I gathered that Ron was more or less retired, wasn't he?
That's kind of what I got out of it.
Yeah, I think he mentioned something about.
Yeah, kind of felt like
there was a joke one day about me not going to work every day, and then Ron kind of followed up with how he was filling his days too. So I got the impression that he was at least day to day, like every single day, that he was that he was beyond that.
Right. So Stevie B, we don't actually know the answer to that.
We don't.
I mean,
again, all we can do is be supportive. And to just tell everybody, we're going to be sending flowers tomorrow from everyone at the experience. So I mean, it really does come from everybody. And Anvu, John, everybody who came in late. I said if you have something you want to mention about Ron in the comments, please feel free to, because again, if Ron does watch this one day, I'm sure just reading positive comments will be great. You don't have to, obviously. I mean, that's why we're here talking about it. It's devastating. I mean, for those that just came on a little bit ago, basically woke up to a text from Ron Tuesday morning saying that his wife passed away, and he didn't even know how to process everything and what was going to happen. So the fact that Ronald considers us that much of a community, that he told me, that he told creative
I was just
team,
about to say that. Consider that, what, like the wholeness of his life, whatever it happens to be. Lots of people, fewer, smaller circle. He took the time to reach out to you and whoever else he reached out to from the community. So, clearly I think it means a lot to him, and it touched a little bit on what you said. I think he realizes it a little bit, because he would not have, if this makes sense, that, you know what I mean? He realized that there were people that cared about him on, the other end of the screen, the other end of the phone, and I that's at least a little bit.
I mean, the one thing is just, I'm reiterating what I said, but this is a community. We care about everybody. You're all family. You help make what we do fun. This wouldn't be fun without you guys. And we don't look at this like a pure transaction, We're not looking at this like,
Well,
it also felt weird. It's a shitty way to start a show, but it also felt weird to ignore the show to ignore this altogether and just go into the show. And I think people may not have seen this, but John Spilios, when he was going into rehab, Ron was one of the people that kicked in $100 to buy him commission cover art as something for John to look forward to when he came back. So, I think I'll say this, all of our lives are better having known Ronald. All of our lives are better because he brought more joy to life. He helped frame. He's a part of the personality of this show. This show wouldn't be, let's see, so great about sharing his connections. Yeah, such a promoter. I mean, that's the other thing. Monday night, I got emails from Ronald about an artist overseas in Israel or France. I can't remember which because he's dealing with so many overseas artists, saying, "Can I put him in contact with you?" I'm getting these emails on Monday, and then Tuesday you get that.
Of course, he's a valued member of our community.
Yeah.
But I think it's smart to say, or safe to say, that he's a valuable member of the comics community, the larger comics community, beyond, just the, kind of like the little family that we created here at the Experience. I mean, he always is promoting the genre, the creators.
Yeah.
And I have to tell you, there's not, that says a lot about somebody. He was doing it just purely for the love of comics and for the people that make comics.
Hey, Mr. Easy Go Lucky. Again, we're just keeping everybody up to date when they're coming in. We're starting the first half hour of the show talking about Ronald. His wife passed away Monday night suddenly, and he's going through a lot, and we just are letting everybody know. We didn't want to start the show off just with the selling show and not talk about it. Everybody here is a member of the community, and while it sucks to have to start off with something like this, we're hoping if Ronald ever watches this that he appreciates the love and support that he's getting. Be nice to one another. Hug your family. Tell them you love them because you never know. I don't think that comes across wrong at all, Ed Weird. Let's see, Backwoods, and only been in comics, but I've noticed it's one of the best communities I've been. Thank you, Backwoods. Appreciate that. So I mean, again, the first half hour is all about Ronald and his wife. So if anybody wants to pop up a memory like John Spilios did and a few others made a few mentions, feel free, because I mean, we're not going to send this to Ronald or anything. I mean,
well, you're right though. He might check this out at some other point just for a distraction, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Let's see. You guys check on people for just oh man. Ronald is a joy. He's been a great ambassador.
Amy has this great connection where literally gifts from Ron are on the wall of her home.
Ronald's been great to all of us. I mean, I've got the Daredevil piece that he sent me, Matt Murdock. You got like alcohol, right?
I did.
Yeah, he sent me beer. He sent me directions to a brewery.
I felt that the beer was leaking. I had to take it into
the beer was
bake room. Got put in the thing because it was leaking because of how I like.
And Rex,
we're like, John, like it's a really nice gift though.
Well, no, and John was like, "What's the name of the mailman? I want that beer that's gone."
Wait, we saved a can or two, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
Oh yeah,
it wasn't completely. It was leaking a little bit. It wasn't.
Yeah, it was only one can, but John still wanted. John makes me think of that Irish joke. There's an Irishman, a German, and there's a German and Irishman. I don't know. Let's call it an Italian. Fly flies into the Italian's beer mug, and the Italian says, I need a new beer mug. The German just takes the fly out, throws it, and the Irishman says, spit it out, that's mine.
That's
You
what
know? So that's what John was like. He was like, I want the mail carrier's name. I want my beer. And Amy, give me whatever drops are left.
I was super thoughtful of Ron. He knows that I'm active in a bunch of different Facebook, brewery.
Oh,
craft breweries
Ron
and
doesn't
stuff like
drink.
that.
I didn't know that. For the people, yeah, there you go. Flat out. For the people not on YouTube, definitely pop these up. Say about Ronald, feel free, no pressure. Just want to invite you in.
Yeah, I mean the guys behind. I mean,
And he put a lot of thought into that. Like Amy, knowing how much Nightmare Before Christmas means to her, that's what he got her. Knowing how much Daredevil means to me, getting me that, getting you the beer, getting Rex what he got Rex. And hearing those stories, like when we had the Greg Hildebrandt thing, and he was telling us how when he was younger, like I think in the 70s, late 70s, early 80s, like before the internet, he actually called their studio and showed up, and he wanted to meet them really bad.
Oh, I remember that. He mentioned something about that another time too, like loving the internet, but almost missing the time where you could find, like when creators started moving to the West Coast, they had these beautiful, like open air, bright window studios and stuff like that. And you could kind of call ahead or knock on by. And if someone was there, you know what I mean? It wasn't like, New York City office building. You couldn't really meet these people or whatever. He always kind of shared that energy.
Yeah.
That sort of almost like for comics, Ron was always like the kid going. And I think when he shares that energy
he was the
with
kid,
people,
yeah.
That's a real gift. That's a real gift.
Yeah. And Kyle did once show the picture of him and Ronald, and
from the con in DC, I think it was, or
Baltimore.
Baltimore.
It was a Baltimore Comic Con. Guys, so sorry that we started this show off on the downer, but it just didn't feel right not to talk about this, not to let the community know. Like I said, Ronald let Creative Keep know. Creative reached out to us too. I did let Marcus know because Marcus is also just felt like he and Ronald had that relationship, but it really felt like the thing to do was to just tell everybody tonight. And this is
we'll touch on
this is real shit. This is horrible shit.
Yeah, we'll touch on it later too, because sometimes we have people come in and join us at 7 or 7:30. It's not like something that we won't, like if we get any information, we'll certainly pass it on to people.
Yeah.
Maybe, when we come back from our break, we'll try to.
Well, when we come back from the break, I mean, I think that, the community would like to also just, have the community.
Yeah, just sort of, we'll talk about some books.
But that's also why we all thought that dedicating the whole first half hour to Ronald and his wife was important. Not even just like do a 30-second or 1 minute
sort of like bumpers or whatever. That seems so insincere.
That's why we also didn't start with our usual thing, and we went right into it. We didn't do our commercial.
And Triple B, that's exactly right. Ronald, and I think most of the members in this community, they're going to hit, bump in the road. They're going to hit that rough spot in their life. Speaking just for myself, if something happened, I'd absolutely want you guys to, take a minute and then go ahead, do the show. I mean, comics like Ron, comics bring me a lot of joy, and they have for, unfortunately, more years than I care to admit. I mean, when we come back,
I'm going on 42 years. I don't know about you, which is amazing considing mentally I'm 16 now.
I was going to say you started Dynamite from the basement when you were like 9.
I started digressing. All right, guys. I think that want to thank you guys all for being here, and like I said, hopefully one day if Ronald watches the show, it'll be something that brings a little bit of happiness, knowing that that all of us care, and yeah, we'll take it. And especially, I mean, Preston and John super chatting for Ronald. Just to let everybody know, we are sending Ronald flowers tomorrow. We just needed to give him a couple of days to process everything, and yeah, and thank you all, guys. Thank you all for caring. Thank you all for being here. Thank you all for listening, and thank you for being part of the community. It really means a lot to us. So, thanks.
Join the party. Head over to our link tree to find all the links for everywhere the experience is all the time.
This is The Experience.
Good afternoon, everybody. Hey there, hi there, ho there. You're as welcome as can be.
Hi, I'm Nancy McCann. Welcome to Friday Night Live on The Experience.
Welcome, everybody. It's Fat Jack's Comic Crypt. Brendan, Al, Jason, hanging out.
There I am. Welcome back to Kicking It with Henry, folks. I am your host, Henry Kumpa. It's great to be here with you guys.
So we are going to talk about books that are in stores this week.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to Mishmash.
Hello, and welcome to the Black Comics Universe, presented by Peep Game Comics.
And you gotta love it that the first people in the minute to skim it are creators.
Up, everybody! Welcome to another Wednesday Warriors. My name is Joey Galvez, and this is my pal Ambrosia.
Hey, everybody! Welcome to Space Cadet.
Hey!
What's up?
Welcome, everyone, for another episode of I Must Ask You a Question.
Hi, everybody! Welcome to Nerd News Now.
Hey, this is Rex. Welcome to Comic Collectables.
Hey, hello, all you happy people. Welcome to the Dan Wickline Show.
Hi, everybody, and welcome. This is the crazy show that we do on Thursdays called What's in the Box? What's in the Box?
Comic culture and sales.
All right, and we're back. And John pushed the draft all the way over to my side. I kind of see what you're trying to do there. All right, we're just
things worked out so well on Monday that Nick suggested I suddenly begin making changes.
All right, John, the form, I think there it is. All right, so there is the submission form.
Thank you. Yeah, that really helps us out, particularly Amy. You know what I mean? When you guys do pick books, we try to get them out, packed up and get them out as quick as possible with people. Filling out, I know maybe, it's like, oh God, I got to fill this out again. But
right. All right, so you know what? Just going to go from the top of the list. No Rex rant tonight.
Yeah, we're not going to kind of do any shtick or whatever. We're just going to have the books out there. If people want to throw stuff out there about books, about shows,
about life in general.
I mean, we'll talk a little bit about.
Makes me want to, when I go home tonight, call my parents. I'm not even joking.
Alex, you want to just jump in when tonight's going to be a little bit of a sort of different show a little bit.
Yeah, I think that in life, when things that happen, you take a lot for granted. Things that you didn't really think about before. I have to be honest. Since Sunday when I broke the tooth, I was feeling very sorry for myself. feeling. I don't even know why. It wasn't that. I mean, it hurt. They ended up pulling the whole thing out, and then.
I bet you never took your hat off though. Was the hat on in the dentist office?
Oh my God, I think you're right. I didn't. I had to push it back a little bit so that you get.
You could take the tooth, but not the hat. You got to.
I just realized. Let me say. So it was a tooth that I had a root canal in done years ago. So I got there. The dentist looks at me and he goes, "Look, the tooth is dead." Okay. He goes. Hey, we could try to put another crown on it, but he says that's going to cost $1 bajillion, and I'm not certain that the same thing won't happen again. So he goes, we can just pull it, and then I'm like, okay, then what? And he goes, well, you have to get a temporary, and then you're going to have to think of a long-term solution. Turns out I couldn't get it done where I was, so I had to go in Mount Laurel, affordable dentures and implants.
Oh my God!
Okay?
Nice.
I'm not sure why.
Dentures,
and it's right by the AAA. You know where that is?
I know exactly where it is. A buddy of mine
I
has a
roll
restaurant
up,
and that's
right. I roll up. Never saw this place. I've been in that. I'm a member of that AAA, right? Never even saw that place. Pull up, and I walk in.
Everybody called you Sonny and Kid.
Dude, I was so much the younger person in that room, right? And even the dentist would make a joke. Oh, you're so young. Well, you're not that young, okay?
I'd be like, man, you gotta stop telling people this.
Oh my God. It was brutal. And then of course I was in pain, and then all of that, and then that's why I missed Monday's show. I was getting all this dental work, and then when this happened, I was like, I stepped back again for a second and said, geez.
Yeah, it does. It perspectivizes it a little bit. Like, I got a broken tooth. You know what I mean? This guy's life is broken now. So you're sort of like, I'll take a seat with my broken tooth and.
And I want to tell you that this damn stuff is expensive. Okay. I'm rocking an iPhone 7. It's starting to act really funky. And I was getting ready.
Yeah, it's that time.
I was getting ready. I was going to, I just haven't had time. I was going to call up Verizon, shop for a new phone. Well, that just all went into my mouth. All that money.
Now, I don't know if you guys remember that. Remember when I was out living in Oklahoma and I was like, I'm having a ton of tooth pain. I went to this really random dentist. It was like right after I got out of the military, so I didn't have any dental or anything like that. Like right after I got out. And he straight up, he's like, man, he said, you got a root canal. It could be a lot worse. And I was like, no way. There's no way this is happening right now. I had to go to a specialist. And the lady felt so bad for me because the tooth was fine. It literally was just a chip that got infected because where the tooth was chipped, it was going into my gum. She said, your tooth is fine. Everything is fine. She actually didn't even charge me for going because that other dentist was just so wrong.
Yeah.
But I dodged a bullet on that one. Huge bullet.
Oh, man. Let me tell you, it's expensive. Dental insurance doesn't cover much.
See, I've never had dental insurance either because they don't cover a lot.
No, they really don't. They cover like well wishes and hope you get better soon, and that follow up email of get well soon.
That's pretty good.
Cleaning, which is the one thing I'd be willing to pay for out of pocket. The cleaning is like $199. I could do that.
Lars, man, you ain't kidding, bro. Okay, my bills from last year were about $3,000 for the cat that died.
Oh, I just went to the vet yesterday for 2 dogs. It was $502 just for checkups, and like the yearly vaccinations. $502. Couldn't believe it.
Wow. JD, can you did you get that photo? There you go.
There it is.
Look at that. Ronald's the good-looking one holding the book.
Yeah, I was going to say Ronald's the good-looking.
And Kyle is clearly not a Kardashian because that is the worst selfie I've ever seen.
Right.
Man, he's not even here to defend himself.
Right. That's why we get to say it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Don't miss that.
But that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So for those of you who came late, just FYI, we talked about it for the first half hour, but
and if you do watch this at some point, Ron, know that we're all here. There's nothing we can really do. I know that's going to make any of this any better, but I don't know. Just know that you're not alone. I
Yeah.
mean, there are a whole bunch of people here in this group.
We love you, brother.
Yeah,
we
we
really,
do.
really do.
But Rex, I actually have to watch Marcus. I actually have to watch the rats and the cats next week because my daughter's going away. So I told her if she's not careful, I may feed the rats to the cats.
Why don't you feed the cats to the rats?
Okay, that's just sick, Nick.
Man,
So
I'm not doing that.
I'm not doing.
That's not the natural order of things. The cycle of life. So yeah, it's yeah, I know. It's all right. So I'm just gonna read it just as it's listed.
Dogs. I read somewhere dogs are like the average cost of the dog is like $169 a month.
And the pet insurance.
Yeah, you don't do pet insurance. That's a waste of money.
Well, I did the math after I coughed up $3,000. I did the math. It's like I've been paying $3,000 a year.
One of the companies my wife's company does business with extended pet insurance to people, and every single, which was very nice. It's comped, and I guess it's very much what you get, what you pay for. I'm not going to mention the company's name. Every single time I bring the dog to the vet, and our dog has special eye drops, special ear drops. Pretty spoiled dog. Special shampoo. Nothing. Literally nothing. Nails clipped. You know what I mean?
Right.
She had to have a tooth removed.
Of all the basic things, the nail clippings aren't even covered. Of all the basic stuff.
So I said, my wife always was like, "Oh, that was so nice of them to comp us that." It would be like if I comped somebody who was fit my health and nutrition plan. There's like zero value in that. You know, my diet of like my spam cleanse. That's like helping no one. You know what I mean? So I'm almost wondering at what point, you know what I mean? The doctor said, "Oh, well, you know, maybe you want to consider this dog food for your dog." You know, do they cover this? Do they cover part of? Oh no. So I'm thinking you don't cover nail clipping, grooming, shots. When we first rescued her, she had a tooth that we knew had to come out, which was why nobody wanted to rescue her. We didn't care about that, you know. But nothing, literally, and it's not even like part of it. All right, like the tooth coming out, like $1,900. If they covered 10%, 20%, 30%, there was literally nothing they covered. All we get from this company is an email saying they hope the dog is doing better with like her name and picture and her microchip number. The microchip number, by the way, is a separate company in charge, not even for that. So I was just like, I've had dogs my entire life. My uncle bred dogs. I have never seen anyone have a positive experience with dog insurance, pet insurance, whatever. There are some independent vets that have payment plans, and that's
they do.
You know, that's a little bit different. Where the vet that we go to has a $99 a month plan, right? And it's almost sort of like you're paying and banking and paying your banking, and it sounds like it's real terrible. And then God forbid your dog gets sick and it's like $600-700. You're really glad you have a payment plan pre-established, and you've got, you know, you've kind of got that in there a little bit.
I mean, I'd be willing to even step that, you know, conversation up one and say legit, like regular insurance for people is, I don't want to call it a waste of money, but the stuff that they cover for the amount that it costs really isn't that good. I mean, I got a family member that's going through a lot with insurance, and like a lot of tests need to be done, a lot of medications, and there's like nothing that's getting covered. They're saying that it's not like sick enough or something like that. And it's like, are you serious? You're really playing with her like that? And it's wild.
Someone I've been friends with about 30 years, his wife is kind of going through some stuff right now, and they're trying to get out ahead of this thing. They don't want her to get super sick. She had a bad, she was a nurse and she was on the front lines. She caught COVID pretty quick, even before they knew what it was. You know, 2.5 years later, whatever it is, you know, walking down the stairs from her bedroom to her living room was like a big feat in her day. And they're trying to get a hold in front of this a little bit. And everything is like, no, you don't really qualify for that level of care yet.
Yeah, that's what it is. You don't qualify.
Exactly.
What's the qualification? You're
sick.
sick.
I am sick, and I have physicians telling me you really need to get this stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know what more qualification I need. And of course, it's insurance that they're paying for. Even if you get it through your job, you're still paying for that.
Now you guys are dangerously getting to the point where I might have to do a Rex rant. I'm just saying.
No, for real though. That's literally what it is. The doctor is saying, "Oh yes, you are sick. You are this. You are that. You need this." And the insurance is like, "I don't think you really need that." Really? You're gonna go against the doctor on that one? This is somebody's life. It's absurd.
No, but do you know why that is? And I think I've spoken about this before. The reason that system exists is in the 1970s, Congress allowed health insurance companies to become for-profit.
Yeah, before that,
that's what changed everything. Because all of a sudden, look at it this way.
They weren't for-profit before.
What's that?
They weren't for-profit. Really?
Yep.
See, I would have assumed that they were for-profit the entire time
Let
because
me
it's just some
verify.
random business.
There's a difference between non-profit, not-for-profit, and profit.
That's
And
true.
I am not like the big super corporate dude, but I remember they shifted the status of healthcare companies, especially like the larger ones. And that's when it became like, this is a great job.
1973. All right, I'm going to read it right out to you. The downfall of the American health insurance system dates back to the Nixon presidency. In 1973, Nixon, as a personal favor for his friend Edgar Kaiser, interesting, signed the Health Maintenance Organization Act, which allowed hospitals, insurance companies, clinics, and even doctors to function as for-profit entities. And this is why. It's just that simple. And it is, quite honestly, a bipartisan issue that is supported by both Democrats and Republicans alike. Okay? So you have to understand that none of this should have been this way, because it's a conflict no matter how you slice this pie. It's a conflict because the guy who's in charge of deciding whether or not you should get health care and they will pay for it is the same guy who's trying to squeeze profitability out of this quarter.
It's like if you were suing somebody and there was one lawyer for the both of you. Well, hold on a second. Whose interests do you have in mind here?
Yeah, who's going to get more money out of this right now?
So basically, it's, suddenly there's this like immoral slide rule instead of this person needs their. The truth of the matter is, at some point, the system, and I hate to say this, at some point the system will break, and they'll have to come up with some sort of universal health care. Just because, as it is now, the number of uninsured or underinsured people is growing almost exponentially. And I understand different people for different reasons will say, that's not true. It is true.
It is true. It's sick.
It's true.
It's sick that people are scared to go to the doctor because they don't know how much it's going to cost. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. At some point, they'll have to just say, look, it might not be quite like it is in the UK or Japan. It'll probably be maybe a little bit more like it is in Canada. But at some point, the idea that corporate guys are somehow guys in business suits are having more to say than the guys in white jackets.
Well, what I find interesting is that the main argument has always been, oh, they're going to have death panels. You can't have a one-payer system. They're going to have death panels. You have death panels right now, okay? When an insurance company decides not to pay out because the odds say you're not going to survive, that's money out of their budget and their profitability. So they're not going to give you, Lee Bizzle. Not sure if you know. Today's show is a little bit different. Joseph L. Yeah, I would agree. Something needs to be done. Lee Bizzle, we actually haven't gotten to that many books tonight. One of our group members from the very beginning, Ron Shepard, we found out on Tuesday his wife passed suddenly on Monday, I believe. I think Nick said. So it's been kind of a weird show.
We're just sort of talking a little bit
about life.
We'll put a few books up at some point.
Yeah.
This started with vets, and now we're ready to burn down Washington for national.
I told you guys were dangerously close to.
This is kind of in continuation of what we were just saying. But did you see what the Minnesota's governor or somebody from Minnesota just came out because they tried passing a bill that was a free lunch for kids in school.
Oh, I saw
And
that.
yeah, and he denied it and said, "I've never met a hungry Minnesotian before." Oh my God, these are kids. This is a free lunch.
I don't care how you vote. I don't even care if you vote. It takes a certain kind of piece of work to have a problem spotting a kid a free lunch in grade school who maybe just doesn't have the $1.50 a day, or I don't even know what school lunches cost anymore.
Even if it's $2, the food's low quality for the most part anyway, and you can't give it for free.
The numbers balloon. The numbers balloon. Really? The numbers balloon? You guys find money on both parties. Like I said, we don't get into that much politics on the show, but it doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on. You find money for your pet projects. I don't care what it is. Everybody's pet project should be making sure a hungry kid that maybe doesn't have the advantages that another kid has can have a meal. A meal we're talking about.
Yeah, it's basic stuff. It's basic.
I've seen a one-payer system work. All right, so my parents live in Taiwan, and one of the main reasons they retired there was because the cost of living was so much cheaper, but mainly because of healthcare. So in Taiwan, they have a one-payer system. That covers up to a certain amount of procedures that you may need throughout your life. Then you can pay extra for additional services. So my parents joined this club, or not a club, but this medical group, of which they paid a membership fee and then a yearly fee. But because you could sign up for the same cost up to 4 family members, and there are only 2 of them, they took me there to get a physical. That had to be the most efficient system I ever saw. I went to one place early in the morning, didn't eat starting at midnight the night before, checked in, took a few minutes, walked into a locker room like a nice high-end health club with wood lockers, and they had like a robe and just kind of surgical scrubs for me. And I got everything checked out: ear, nose, throat. I got MRI. I got an X-ray, and I never saw anything this efficient. They didn't move around. They didn't send you to different specialists. I walked around to each specialist within the same building. And by the time I got there, my name was in lights in front of the examination room. Most of the time I was walking, and I didn't even get to the door, and there was like a nurse out there with a clipboard waiting for me, like, "Mr. Wang." And in I go. The whole process took 3 hours.
Mr. Wang, we're going to need you to remove that baseball cap.
Over my dead body.
Then they fed me lunch, which was balanced based on my blood work. Now I have to admit that it was the worst lunch I've ever had in the island of Taiwan because I have hypertension, so no salt. This thing was the blandest thing I ever saw.
Man.
But it was nutritionally balanced for me, for whatever I needed. And then I went home, and it was all said and done. My stepmother and I got into the parking lot and picked up the car by 1 o'clock, 1:30. We still had most of the day. Never saw anything like that. That's on top of the care that they would normally get from the one-payer system. So you have the option to pay for something more if you so choose.
I understand that's the way it is. I have a lot of Canadian friends, and I understand some of them they're sort of like the best of both worlds, right? Like, from what I understand, the Canadian healthcare system, there's coverage there for you. However, if you want or care to pay for more, opt out. So basically, you're never left, like when we had Obamacare and everybody was super excited about it, Canadians were like, "This isn't that great. Why are you guys super psyched about this?" And I had to tell a buddy of mine who moved to Canada about 30 years ago, met a girl, moved there, resettled there. I had to tell him, "Dude, you don't realize how bad things are. We were kids when you were here, so you didn't really have health insurance. You don't realize," this was like we were having this conversation like 2016 or 2016. I said, "I don't think you realize in 2015, 16 what health insurance is like now."
Right.
I said, you've been living outside of Ottawa for a really long time. You take that for granted. There are people here with kids, and it's like, my kid is sick. Oh, have you tried not being poor?
That's basically it.
Yeah.
You want to throw this out there? Yeah, absolutely, John. Thank you for your service. Alex, thank you for your service. I mean, people, we don't really get into this that much, but people in the community, thank you. Thank you for your service. I mean, now more than ever, I think these people really need to sort of be, shouted out and spotlighted and saying, hey, look, you took that time out of your life. You took that time, you know what I mean, to keep other people's lives safe. I don't think that can be overstated enough. And I know people all seem to have very sort of different opinions about that too. I don't know how you have a different opinion other than thank you for your service. My opinion, if anything, is they should be increasing whatever they get, salary, benefits, I don't care what it is. You know what I mean? Whatever they need, because, I mean, it's not like I had the discipline to lose weight in the past, physical training. I mean, I just didn't do it. They were like, oh, dude, you should have been here 90 pounds ago if you wanted to join the military.
Right.
And, and there were other people, in my immediate circle that did serve. And, when I see people like, oh, those guys get paid really well. Okay. According to who?
Yeah,
the only people who get paid really well seem to be the people who say everyone else is getting paid really well. No, dude. It's just you making all that money. Guys are coming out. A buddy of mine comes out of the Coast Guard. He's sleeping on my couch. And I didn't mind that. He stayed on my couch for almost a year while he was training. Eventually, I found him a job out towards Pittsburgh. But, I mean, in my opinion, you shouldn't be in the Coast Guard. I think he was in the Coast Guard for like 5.5 years. You shouldn't not have enough money to get a place in your home state.
Right.
You know what I mean? After 5.5 years of service. And New Jersey being New Jersey back then, this was probably like mid to late 90s. He just didn't have the money. He literally couldn't find a 1-bedroom or studio apartment with the money that he had from his 5.5 years of service. That's insane to me.
Man, they don't really, like, at least for the Air Force, if you're not an officer, you don't really start to make decent money, like decent, until staff sergeant. But then the real pay bump is tech sergeant. But at that point, man, your life is so consumed by like where you are in the military that it really takes up a lot of your time. Just being a technical sergeant, that I feel like the money's not even worth it. Like it's just not. But that's my opinion. That's why I got out.
We're going to take a quick break, and then when we get back, we're going to blow through these.
We actually will talk about comics. We promise.
All right.
Oh, yeah, that's what this show is. Yeah.
We'll be right back.
Join the party. Head over to our link tree to find all the links for everywhere the experience is all the time.
Imagine being at a convention and going to an interview panel that's just for you. No bustling crowds, no hours-long lines, just you, the moderator, and your favorite comic book creators. Well, this is pretty much that. Miss Jen sits down every week with 2 comic book creators for a live stream interview about their latest work, and you can ask them whatever you want. It's Talking Shop, Mondays at 5 Eastern on The Experience, Comic Culture and Sales.
Programming on the EXP is made possible by viewers like you, or your local comic shop, or that Kickstarter you backed, or the publisher you like, or comic industry professionals who want to share a message with the world. Really, anyone who wants to advertise with us can. If you're interested in seeing a product you know and love, or are creating, or are publishing, or are involved with advertised here on The Experience and having your message shared with our viewers, please reach out by scanning the QR code below or visiting our website and using the contact form.
All right, and we're back. All right, so let's get started on the list anyway. We've got a lot of books to cover. All right, so first off, as always, Dynamite 10-pack reader set, 10 random Dynamite titles, cover price of $3.99 or higher, and as always, we have it for $5. It's a thank you to our viewers. 50 cents a copy. You cannot go wrong. All right, so you guys have all seen that. Hey, Tom Bishop, what's going on, buddy? All right, next up, we got Red Goblin #1. Dave Raposa incentive variant cover 1:50 ratio. See it out in the wild for about 125. We have this one available tonight for 75. All right, so every retailer had to buy 50 of the regular cover in order to score one of these. And then we have The Last Barbarians #1. This is #1D version cover by Brian Haberlin, and you can see it in the wild for about $15. We have the one available for $10.
I like that book a lot, actually. I talked to a lot of people about The Last Barbarians because 2 came out today. They said they really didn't like it, but I think it's really good. I'm a big fan of Hellcop too. It's the same pretty much same creative team. I will admit the story's a tad all over the place right now, but they're doing a good job setting some things up. There's like a big mystery that's going on in the series. You don't really know what anybody's motives are just yet, but I'm with it. It's cool. It's got some cool artwork too.
Really storyline.
See, I like that though, and it seems like, and I think Alec, we talked about this with Alex one time before, and I know we talked about Robbie a while back. Everybody seems to kind of have that instant gratification like checklist, right? Like I immediately, yeah, sure, you probably want to start with a hook, something interesting or whatever, but it's okay to let stories develop. I mean, in this era of where things binge, and we had many conversations about, do you want the show to drop all at once, or do you want it to be week to week or whatever? I feel sometimes that these great books get overlooked a little bit. Now, maybe you've seen this as well too. I feel like these great books sort of get overlooked or almost sort of like fluffed off, like, I'm not really that into it. And then they come out like in a collection a year or two later, and people are like, wow, this is great. Where was this? Well, this was coming out every month, and you didn't want to.
Right. Yeah, it's been coming out, man.
You didn't want to just buy it monthly. You wanted to wait 18 months or we talked about this with Comixology. There's some really good books coming out right now that were Comixology exclusives a year and a half ago. Now, I get maybe people, for a variety of reasons, they're not into digital comics, et cetera, et cetera. Digital comics are not my go-to either. There's certain reasons why I use Comixology to decide what to buy. I don't use it in place of, you know what I mean? If I'm not sure about something, I wait till it's up on Comixology Unlimited. I read it, I like it, I buy it.
Right.
I know some people are maybe like, well, I'm just going to stop buying comics. Okay, whatever. That's not me. But I think that it's okay to, I agree with that. I kind of need the feel, the smell, the tactile sort of experience. And sometimes it's fine too. Like during the pandemic, there were times where the comic book store was closed. I was glad for Comixology Unlimited. Right. I was glad for Marvel Unlimited. You know what I mean? Because I couldn't get, there weren't those long boxes to go through. There was no store to sit on the floor of and, and grab yourself your dollar stack or whatever. That being said, I think there's something to be said for, let the book come out at the pace that the creators and the publisher decide is best. I've talked to a lot of creators. We've almost made it a joke on the show. I talk to a lot of creators, a lot.
I didn't know that.
And you know, I'm always curious to what's next.
It's also enough creators to get you drunk. That's for sure.
Cullen Bunn. I did not speak directly to Cullen Bunn, but Cullen Bunn has a Kickstarter for probably one of my favorite things Dynamite has ever done, like by far.
Right.
Also, it's my favorite thing in Lovecraft, and that's Reanimator.
Oh, he's doing the next one?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Dude, Cullen Bunn does really good horror stuff.
Yeah. And he's with Blackie. Oh God, I can't think of his name. His last name. I feel awful. He did some fairy tales for Vampirella. Nothing endears me to a creator more when they freely admit this was probably not my best effort. And when I very first time I saw Blackie's work in Dynamite, it was in like one of the Vampirella fairy tales. For people that don't know, it's kind of like a collection play on fairy tales.
Right.
And by his own admission, it wasn't a strong outing. He really did not expect to be doing more work in comics. Of course, now he's done a bunch of stuff in comics. But that very first thing, he had the same reaction I did. Like, I don't think this isn't going to work out the way you'd hoped. And as it turned out, as he said, he got better. He got dialed in. Him, Cullen Bunn. Now, there's been like a ton of stuff they've done. But I love when a creator is honest enough to say, Cullen Bunn says it with Reanimator. Herbert West, I know really well. I've read the Herbert West stories, the movies. I've actually read some of Lovecraft's notes from Derleith, his sort of like recording secretary or whatever you want to call it, about Herbert West. The Herbert West you see in Dynamite Comics is not the same Herbert West that Lovecraft imagines. He's kind of building the story and the character around a version of that. And I got to tell you right now, as much as I love Lovecraft, Blackie Shepherd, thank you, Edward. The version of H.P. Lovecraft that you've seen with Vampirella, that you've seen in Army of Darkness, is eminently more readable and entertaining than the H.P. Lovecraft.
And let me mention this. On the Dynamic Forces Facebook page, we have posted an actual interview with Cullen Bunn
I watched
and
that.
Blackie Shepherd about Reanimator. So if you want to see a great in-depth kind of little interview there, that's up on our Facebook page as well.
What I love about that interview is it's a longer form, and it really is sort of, and I'm certainly not trying to make this about me because it's certainly not, but if I was going to ask these guys questions, this is what I would ask. So, you know what I mean? I kind of love the fact that a lot of times we'll get creators do bumpers. You know, today's New Comic Book Day, right? Oh, this week from Dynamite Comics, I have, Vampirella, Screaming the Insane or whatever coming out. Right. Thanks, everybody. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's great that they take the time to do that. But I really love the fact that these guys sort of sat down and just kind of, like questions I would ask them.
Right.
Like Cullen Bunn, and I actually asked Cullen Bunn this at a con a long time ago about how he came to this version of Herbert West. And the answer was real simple. Herbert West is written by Lovecraft, kind of one-dimensional and dry. There's not a lot of there. I mean, Lovecraft had a bunch of notes for what he wanted to do, but now he got wrapped up in his dream cycle and other stuff, and he never revisited the character. Other people have taken swings at it, and I think because Lovecraft is such a giant genre, people are a little bit afraid to sort of, step outside the box.
Right.
Much like people cooking on Instagram, comic book creators are like, you know what, I'm going to do my thing. And if people buy it, they buy it. If they don't, they don't. And in this case, Bunn's take on Herbert West is way more entertaining.
That's cool.
Translatable in the comics medium than, and I say that with no disrespect to the H.P. Lovecraft's work. I really don't. But I love that. Dynamite has done the original Reanimator that Dynamite did was such a good read. You know what I mean? And again, it humanizes him a little bit. And in this particular, if you read Reanimator and Vampirella, or if you're reading Reanimator and Army of Darkness, Herbert West and Cullen Bunn, this is an exact quote. Colin Bunn is kind of Colin Bunn said Herbert West is kind of a dirtbag. This is not a good dude. You know, he's stealing bodies and jamming chemicals in them to bring them back to life. He might think he's a good dude, but dude, the rest of us think you're a whack job. The way Colin Bunn formats the stories, Herbert West is almost pushed into being a good guy, which is not in his nature at all. And I got to tell you, I think that is super entertaining. That's some of the best stuff Dynamite has done, particularly the Army of Darkness thing that we're just kind of, wrapping up now. It's very cool.
All right, so let's get a few more books off the list. All right, we have Guardians of the Galaxy number 17 from 1991. And this one is a bargain basement price of $5. Actually, it's in pretty good shape. I was looking at it. I think it's a 9.0. If anybody's looking to fill out their collection, this is available for $5. All right, then we have the Eternals number 1, Giant Size Spectacular, also from 1991. And all right, large man, you got it, buddy. All right, so then we have Eternals number 1, Giant Size Spectacular from 1991, and we have this one available for $10.
Jay, you're right. Jeffrey Combs did bring a lot of life to the character because, again, if you read how Herbert West is written, he's kind of like a little bit of a riff on Victor Frankenstein and some of these other mad scientist types. The reason given for what he wants to do, especially in the Lovecraft work, is pretty... Okay, you're doing this because you can, right? You don't even have like a tremendous. At least Frankenstein was trying to help people. This is literally Herbert West hates his instructor in college and is like, dude, you said this can't be done. F you. I'm going to show you it can be done. That's not a good reason to like be bringing the dead back to life in various stages of success.
All right, so Lars, man, I'm going to go out of order because this one is probably just for you. Spider-Man 3-pack includes Amazing Spider-Man number 1, Sin's Rising Prelude, Spider-Punk number 1, and Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man number 300. All 3 books, $10.
Oh, wow. And I'll tell you,
Spider-Punk is awesome. Yeah, Spider-Punk's great.
DJ, what's going on, buddy? Hey, all right, large man, you got it. Well, we can bring Amy in here for the Amy Aftermath.
The Amy Aftermath was fun on Monday.
That's a great name, guys.
People dug that. It was kind of,
So, TJ, just kind of a somber show for us. Our good buddy,
joining us.
Yeah, our good buddy Ron Shepard, who's been with us since the beginning. His wife suddenly passed away on Monday, so we kind of started off the show talking about that, and then we kind of spent the second half hour just kind of talking about life in general. So we're just getting to the books, actually. So you didn't miss much in terms of the books. And we'll do a Rex Cap or an Amy Aftermath in a little bit.
We'll bring her in.
Guys,
she's got a million things to do at her desk.
Let me get a few more out there, right? All right, so we got some interesting Action Comics. Number 1050. Alexander Lozano wraparound card stock incentive, variant cover, 1:75 ratio. You can find this out in the wild for $150, and we have this one for $75.
It's a sweet cover. Well, 2 covers. Well,
it's a little bit like long hair Superman energy from the 90s, right? I
Yeah, you get the hair. It's working the hair.
Well,
yeah, TJ.
Artists are really, bringing new energy to Superman, the first quote-unquote comic book character. It's not easy. So people are trying to change, the look, the costume without going. Because Superman are one of these things, and I'm guilty of this. If you go too far from what I consider Superman to be,
right,
I'm not buying the book.
Right.
Mark Waid talked about that with Kingdom Come. He said one of the hardest things he had to do in his career up to that point was make Superman new and interesting, kind of like the central figure of Kingdom Come, but he didn't want to go too far away from, faster than a speeding bullet, because people don't buy into the character that much.
Stevie B, I like that comparison. Jim
That's
Morrison,
very
Superman.
cool, man.
That's cool.
All right.
Hey,
So-
I gotta tell Signer or Sinner real quick. It says, really, you guys like Spider-Punk? It seems like lame to me. The series didn't really focus on Spider-Punk. It was more of like a team. They were driving around city to city, kind of performing, but at the same time, yeah, they had like their little mystery machine van, and they were trying to, not there's. It was like all the major Spider-Man villains were kind of turned into a punk rock version of that. So I had him, like a Captain America, Kamala Khan was there, and a few others, but it was more of like a team thing in that series. It wasn't just specifically focused on him. It was really good though. That writer is currently doing the Miles Morales series, so if you're reading that and liking it, definitely pick up the Spider-Punk one too.
Yeah, they were almost more like the Punk Vengers. I remember that, right?
Yeah. That's pretty much what it was.
You kind of had like a punk version of Daredevil.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I think when you pick up a book called Spider-Punk, yeah, I agree. He is one of the better Spider variants, but I'm kind of expecting it to be more about him. There was a previous something Spider-Punk. I can't remember the name of the previous situation where he was sort of dealing with Norman Osborn, who was the president at that time. I can't remember the name of it, but it was a lot more. It was a lot more fun. I think the second series that people are talking about right now, they tried to explore that. I don't remember what Earth that is. I'm not going to pretend, but whatever the Punk Earth was, they were trying to show you. And for old people, I'll tell you right now, it was very Streets of Fire, which is why I really liked it. This idealized version of the music scene,
yeah,
in the everyday world. And for people who've seen Streets of Fire, that's exactly what that. I love Streets of Fire, and the idea that the world would have revolved around clubs and bands and stuff like that. I love the fact that the creators grabbed that energy and put that in a Spider-Man variant character.
And they last thing for that one, if you're also a fan of that type of music, they put music references in there. Like they have lyrics that some of the villains are saying. It was really cool. Like they had a Misfits one. That's the one I remember specifically.
All right, so next up we have Action Comics number 1050, Barrio Nuevo, incentive cover 1 in 50 ratio. Find it out in the wild for 75, and we have one available for 50.
It's a cool cover too.
And I think I love the fact that his jersey number is 38 for 1938. I've seen that done a couple times before. But this is exactly how, if they're trying to infuse a little new energy into the first or oldest character, that's exactly how you do it. Stuff like this, things that, he doesn't always wear that suit. I know he wears the suit when it's Superman, but, the guy wears like jeans and a hoodie. And I think it's okay sometimes, especially that kind of looks like he's at his farm. If I'm looking at that right, that sort of looks like he's kind of in like a field in ostensibly Smallville, near Smallville. One of the things I for years I said when people were like, Superman lived in Metropolis, and then when we got to the 90s, he complained about city life. And my thought the entire time was, dude, you're doing this to yourself. Your commute from Metropolis to Smallville is what? Like a minute, like 60 seconds? There's no reason why, if you need to keep that apartment for your legend, that's fine. But we both know you could go home and be sleeping in your room, eating your mom's home cooking every single night.
Right. All right. Then we have Action Comics number 1050, Steve Rude cardstock incentive variant, 1 in 100 ratio. You're going to find that out in the wild for around $250, and we have this one available for $199.
Yeah, I mean, this is very reminiscent to when Steve Rude did the Superman versus Hulk book.
Right.
That's one of those kind of crossovers that sort of gets forgotten when people talk about all the sort of crossovers Marvel and DC did. It was a little bit more understated.
Hey guys, real quick, don't worry about not getting to everything this week. No point, with everything that happened. So
yeah, we're gonna just try to.
If you don't get to everything,
yeah, no, I know. We're just trying to.
We're trying to just go maybe
give
like
something out there.
I just don't want you guys to feel like you have to get it all in.
No, I'm with you.
No, I appreciate that.
I know
you.
that.
And it says a lot about Nick too.
All right, so, this is another one for Lars, man. Amazing Spider-Man number 16, Legacy number 910, Mark Bagley incentive variant, 1 in 25 ratio. And can find it in the wild for around 30, and we have one for 50, and we have one available for 30. So we do want to talk about New Comic Book Day at some point.
We do want to talk about New Comic.
It's a pretty big week.
Break.
Yeah, we'll come back from our final break and we'll.
Hey, Lyle, how you doing, buddy? No problem, you're late. All right, Lars, man, you got it, buddy. Just bringing you up to speed.
Chasm is one of those characters that's got to be fun to draw. Like if you're an artist, that this is, you kind of get your, you get like the email from the editor. You're like, Chasm, cool.
So, Lyle, just so you know, we spent the first hour just talking about, goofy stuff. I got you, Lars, man. Just so you know, Lyle, we found out on Tuesday that Ron Shepard's wife passed away suddenly on Monday. So we were kind of just talking about that a little bit. How much we all care about Ron, obviously, and just kind of real world, real life stuff, I guess. So it's been kind of a different show, buddy. So you may feel the energy level. It's a little somber, I think, today.
Yeah, it's a little low key, and for people who are wondering like how many books you've missed, quite honestly, not very many. I mean, Rex will do a recap at some point, but it's not like you've missed an hour's worth of books.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Too. We sort of just eased into this a little bit, and I don't even think we started our first book at 7 o'clock.
Yeah, 7.
So if you're joining us now, it's not like you've missed a ton of stuff.
So. Senator 24 has an interesting question. Who do you think is the best cover artist right now?
Ooh.
I'll go that to Alec first.
I was going to say, I'm looking at you first. I might have to think about that one. Best
for
cover
me,
artist.
For me, it's always Alex Ross. I guess, and if that kind of limits me, there's people doing tremendous work right now, different styles. You see like an Alex Maleev cover and your head turns, right?
Right.
But for me personally, I haven't seen an Alex Ross cover that wasn't the best version of that character I'd ever seen. And the only exception to that I will make is Spawn and Todd McFarlane. Every other version of every character Alex Ross has ever done, that's the best that character is. Look, even characters like Batman, who I am not enamored of. Batman looks amazing on an Alex Ross cover. It's just how it is for me. Everybody else's mileage may vary. They might like different,
Right.
I would be fine if somebody said Jack Kirby. If your taste stops at the King, okay. I totally understand that.
Well, it's the realism with Alex Ross.
Yeah, I got to go with Ross too. There really isn't a better one. I was thinking about Art Germ for a little bit. You got Jae Hung Lee. There's some really good artists out there, but Alex Ross, I gotta go.
Yeah, I mean, Joseph Michael Linsner.
Yeah, that's true too.
I mean, he does covers for Dynamite.
Oh yeah, Lucia Brio too. See, there's so many good artists.
I think it depends on what you like and
Yeah.
what the characters are to you.
Right.
What Alex Ross does for me is he simultaneously makes the characters relatable, because he'll use real life models, and sometimes, especially earlier in his career, he would have certain characters look like celebrities from the past or whatever. But at the same time, he makes them more than human, which they're supposed to be to begin with, right? And I always go to Superman. I understand he's used 2 Superman models kind of in his life. One was like a close personal friend.
So that was the news that came out today. James Gunn's going to direct the new Superman movie, supposedly.
I mean, I guess we'll see what we see. We will really see. A lot has been said about James Gunn. We've had a lot of fun here, poking, comments, whatever. Gunn is going to get what he wants. He's going to be in the driver's seat, and he's going to be basically kicking this off from the jump. So, you kind of lobbied, talked your way into this. And in all fairness, he earned it. I mean, I don't think anybody expected something like Guardians of the Galaxy or Peacemaker to go anywhere. I think people thought these were vanity projects, and they turned into some of the most successful stuff that's out there in the comic book world. So you know what? He doesn't want Henry Cavill. He wants a different Superman story. Okay, your wish is granted. as long as he's ready and DC is ready to accept the flip side,
right?
If he doesn't nail this, I mean,
he's in a tough spot.
He's in a tough spot.
It's a pretty low bar, though. I got to tell you.
Yeah, but if this is a failure, this is going to affect his career going forward. Because I mean, look what he's done for Guardians.
Yes.
And now it's like, all right, you did good for Guardians. Now we're giving you the reign for DC.
I don't know. I don't know. I think DC.
You think he goes running the Guardians of the Galaxy 4?
Yeah, DC has been such a mess for so long that the bar is so low. I just really don't see it down.
You're not wrong.
You know, that really he can only help. He can't make it worse. But, you know, that's kind of the way I see it. All right, let me get these two Timeless books out before we got to go to our last and final break. So we have Timeless #1, Dodson Incentive Variant Edition, 1:50 ratio.
Wow.
You'll find it out in the wild for $140, and we have this one available for $100.
Timeless is really cool too. I'm usually not impressed by a lot of the Marvel kind of one shots and stuff like that, but they did one of these last year as well. It's cool. It gives an insight to where Marvel's going for the year. And this one just, I don't know, it's got Kang and had a couple a new villain or two or something in it, but it's a fun read.
I think that's a great way to put this too. This is like the tip off. If you're wondering what Marvel's doing for the year,
yeah,
I'd actually like to see more of this. I wouldn't mind like a DC version of this. Right. What are you guys doing this year? Give me one book that I can pick up for $5.99 with interesting characters, well written, good story, good cover, and I know what I'm getting into. For example, if I had seen when they did these things where, it's like Superman's head on a robot spider body, I know I could take the year off. That's terrible. Right. Then they did vampires, and it seems like for 2 or 3 years DC has been fighting the undead. I get it. The Walking Dead is popular. Last of Us is unpopular. I love George Romero too. I'm not going to shove my entire catalog into the zombie zone for 37, 38, 39 months and counting.
All right, so we're going to take our last and final break, and we'll be back in a couple minutes, and we'll try to get through a few more books. We'll do a Rex cap, and then, that'll bring us probably towards the end. All right, stay with us.
We'll talk about New Comic Book Day a bit too, I think.
Why was Princess Zelda sad after watching a bunch of YouTube videos? She couldn't find a link in the description. We'll stop if you subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's super easy. Click subscribe and click the bell when you do. And thanks for supporting the EXP.
You just finished the last episode of your favorite new show, and you just have to talk about it. But all your friends are ghosting you because of that incident last week at the buffet. Oh, you know the one. What you did to that chowder. Ugh. Keeps me up at night. So what do? Join writer Dan Wickline as he breaks down all your favorite pop culture media. Whether it's a review of the latest nerdy TV show or a dive back into the history of your favorite comic characters, Dan's ready to discuss all the hottest topics live. Join the conversation as Dan live streams Tuesday through Thursday at 5 Eastern, 2 Pacific on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. The Dan Wickline Show on The Experience, Comic Culture and Sales. Did you know that across America there are over 2, maybe even 3 live stream producers who can't even afford Mountain Dew? Take Brian here. Brian has gone 2 weeks without a sip of Red Bull. If it goes on much longer, he may take a shower and get a real job. Situations like this are as tragic as they are preventable. Join The Experience on YouTube and gain access to special emojis and members-only streams. For less than a cup of coffee, you can keep socially awkward hermit people working from their parents' basements where they belong. Scan the QR code on the screen to join. You'll be glad you did.
What if Hans Gruber from Die Hard had to battle the Joker from Batman the Animated Series in a dance battle? Or who would win in a race between Baby from Baby Driver and Snidely Whiplash? If Austin Powers and Shrek found themselves in a hot dog eating contest, who would emerge victorious? These are the questions we talk about on Nerd Killer Warfare. Debate the most absurd questions you've ever heard in popular culture. Register now by scanning the QR code or visiting bit.ly/EXP casting.
Hey, and we're back.
Really quick, somebody threw something up before, and I saw the comment and it really resonated with me. Somebody said we're really spoiled for cover artists right now, and that we had this conversation, and Jim Lee's name didn't come up. There was a time where Jim Lee was, I mean, I this isn't exactly how it happened, but he was so good an artist, they put him in charge of DC Comics. As far as I'm concerned, that's
pretty good.
I mentioned Todd McFarlane, but only peripherally. I mean, there was a time where McFarlane books were selling in excess of $1,000. Now I realize the market has sort of altered a little bit, but I remember going into a store and seeing a book for like $1,100 on the wall because it was like a McFarlane first, right, whatever, blah blah blah. So yeah, we are spoiled a little bit because Art Germ. We have, you look at what we do here at Dynamite, obviously, there's a much bigger world out there with Marvel, DC, or whatever, but you're looking at what we're doing here, where we have artists from different parts of the art world, from different parts of the planet, doing takes on characters like Vampirella and Red Sonja and stuff like that.
Peach
Momoko, Lyrics Lake. They're using, we've talked about this now, where they're using printing and color processes where we can't really tell, is this like a photo cover? Is this a cosplay cover? I had one of our cosplayers say to me that she could not tell if it was a cosplay cover or not. That says a lot to me. I mean, this is a model and someone who cosplays for a living. And if she can't see off on first glance what it was.
Right.
Right now, if you're a cover guy, if you're one of those people that the book starts and ends with the cover, there's like an embarrassment of riches right now. You're at the top level of Vegas, surf and turf buffet, and as somebody else said, Alex Ross is still producing covers at that level, almost in a weird way, almost like a machine. You see, he likes to post some videos and stuff on Facebook. And he's just kind of sitting there talking to people, sketching. And it's like the most, one day he was like, oh, here, and he was sketching like Adam Strange, a character I love from DC. I'm like, dude, I would buy that book right now for $10 an issue if you did Adam Strange looking this way.
Yeah, Lyle, anytime, buddy. No worries, bud. No worries at all. And I think, Triple B, you asked me earlier about a Metal Purgatory cover. I remember you asked me that. I will get on it with Amy in the morning. I apologize. It's been kind of a crazy couple of weeks here.
We're going to talk about New Comic Book Day a little bit?
Yeah. Let's talk about New Comic Book Day.
This is like an Alec thing, the Alex report. Like, how bad was it this week?
Nah, it was a good week. Had some good stuff. Berserker's finally over, so that was really cool. But we had. Grab some of these. All right, actually, hold on.
Oh my God, you got like 74 comics.
I wish. I only got 12. There's not too many that I'm like really gonna talk about besides like a few new ones. But this one, I talked about this when it first came out from Boom Studios, Harrower. I didn't think the first issue was really good. It like read as if it was a second or third or fourth issue. Like all the characters were established, everything's established, and it didn't really make too much sense.
Right?
Yeah, and this one, it basically jumps straight into it again, and it's like, oh, we still don't have any like backstory. We don't have any knowledge on these characters or the town or anything. It's just this dude, this like monster kind of killer right there, just jumping into it and like slashing everybody up at a party. And I thought about it. I was like, wait, this book is just like an 80s slasher film. That's what
Yeah.
it is. I'm not excited for the characters. I don't care about any of them. I don't care about the plot. This issue was really cool to see like his capabilities and how powerful he is. And it was just so cool to see him go into this party and just like annihilate everybody. And I was like, oh yeah, that's awesome. I want to see him do it again in the third issue. So if you go into it with that mindset, it's actually a cool series. But then the only other new one that's not new, but the only new one that I got that I want to talk about is No One from Image. This one was awesome. It's in the Massiverse. Like if you're reading Radiant Black or Radiant Pink or Rogue Sun, any of those books, this is part of that universe. And I don't want to call this guy like Batman, but he's just a crime fighting vigilante, and you don't know, like you don't see his face, you don't know who he is. And that's pretty much what they do. Just he fights crime, or he fights bad people. He makes them pay for their crimes. But it's like originally some hacker released info and he became this person, but now there's copycats. It's cool. It's cool.
There was a Batman, one of the Batman Elseworlds takes, and this is probably going back to the 90s, and which I would like to see, and they've revisited the idea, but not in the way I wanted to see it, is that Batman appears, right? And he's sort of, I drop through the skylight, I do my thing. And in this particular Elseworlds, or maybe it was Legends of the Dead Earth or something, which was essentially Elseworlds, people become inspired by Batman. And now you have everything from Punisher Batman to Slasher Batman to, you know what I mean? And the central Batman character in that book sort of realized that he'd lost control of it. The idea was supposed to be justice served. And I remember at some point in the book, it's almost like Beaver Vigilante. The one Batman is like a Batman bomber, and he blows up like a monorail station or something. And at that point, he realizes, man, this is why people don't do this. And it was almost very meta before you use that term, where the Bruce Wayne character realized, you know what? You know what I mean? That you should. This is why you don't do that. This is why you don't put on a mask and spend $100 million on customized gadgets and start doing stuff like this. Because, yeah, sure, in the beginning, it's all fun and games. And then you wind up having, like, a Batman copycat where he just customizes his car and he goes around running people over.
Right.
And you're like, no, dude, that's not the point. Yeah, but the problem is it's out there now. I'll tell you two books that normally, we've talked about this a lot. Marvel and DC, I almost feel like we're unfair to them in a certain way. We kind of bag on the lack of creative energy. We talk about how they're going through the motions. And I'm not saying they're not doing that. Let's be clear. However, two books came out this week that I thought bucked that trend a little bit. One was I was super happy to see Mike Allred saddle back up for another run with Excellent. I think that's Peter Mulligan. Him and Mike Allred do this book, and it's sort of what I consider to be the most entertaining part of the X-Men universe. Really cool book. If you haven't read Excellent, it's just real neat. It's really sort of, you know what I mean? It's a neat take on the idea. And another book I read this week, and I've sort of given up. I love this character so much, I've sort of given up on reading the stuff they do for him. But we've talked about him a lot tonight, so I'll throw it out there. Is Superman. They had a book today called Superman Lost. So I guess technically these things come out yesterday. I saw it today. Superman Lost. And we've talked about it's difficult to get like a new take on, the oldest comic book character. This book really sort of, you know what I mean? It's called Superman Lost.
Right.
And I don't know if it has a little bit of the Ulysses vibe, but, Superman's on a mission in space. Meanwhile, back in Metropolis, Lois wakes up and they're sort of like, I don't want to say a complete stranger because I don't want to make it seem like a stalker thing, but this is a person who claims to be Superman and he's been in space for 20 years. And he's afraid that someone has taken his place or whatever. The way it's written is kind of cool. Like it makes you wonder. And it sort of feeds into this. Look, we've had a lot of different versions of Superman in the last 15 years. New 52, newer 52, not 52, blah blah blah. And you're sort of, this almost is like playing around with the fact where, all right, it's been 20 years and I'm back. Who are all the counterfeit Supermen? I don't know if that's what the creator wanted to give off, but that was what I got from it. It's almost like poking a little bit of fun of, we redo Superman every few years. Let's try to get him back to, where he was before. Not to mention, anytime Superman is a little bit older, veteran, even if he's not physically older, when he's kind of got that, the miles on him, you know what I mean? I really like that. This sort of, not every day, even for Superman, not every day is a wonderful day. And this Superman Lost sort of kind of hints at this guy at least thinks he's Superman. And he's been out there for 20 years after, Panic in the Sky or one of these sort of big 90s things. And now he's back. And he's like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? And, Lois is sort of like, what do I do here? And I think that's, again, I haven't seen that before. I haven't seen that take. So, much respect to them for sort of, you know what I mean? It's, we talk a lot about Christopher Priest, Vampirella stuff, whatever. He's like right now, Christopher Priest right now is at the top of his game.
Right.
Vampirella and Superman are about as far apart as they can get, right?
That is true.
He's one of the top 2 or 3 Vampirella creators in the character's history. And after reading this today, he's got a different take on what it means to be Superman. And I kind of dig that.
Cool. I actually passed up on that book because I'm reading the other Superman series right now.
See, I didn't. I'll say this. It might be something, and I don't know how it's going to go, but I think this might sort of be. I saw Christopher Priest, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to give it a try. And then somebody said, who knows me, oh, dude, you might like this because it's not the same old. And I said, okay. They were when I go into a comic book store and the person at the counter is reading the book, that kind of tips me off a little bit too.
Yeah,
it's like if you go to an ethnic restaurant and people of that ethnicity are eating in there, that tips me off that, okay, this is where I'm going to have lunch.
Right.
And that's sort of people who own their retailers, whatever, people who own their own stores. If you're taking the time out of your day and you're reading the book, okay,
that'd be pretty good.
I'll for $5 or whatever, I'll jump on, sure. And I was pleasantly surprised. It's one of those things where, and I haven't done this in a while actually. Got out to the truck, opened this up. I said, I'm just going to peek at a page or two. And all of a sudden I realized I got to start the truck. It's freezing out here. And I was out of coffee and I'd read like the whole book. And I'm like, all right, I'm in. I felt it was only fair to bring that up because you guys are probably sick of hearing me say, I love DC characters, but I can't read DC comics. Here's one where, you know what I mean? I've said for a while I'd love to see Christopher Priest take a run at Hal Jordan, maybe set in like the 1960s.
All right, let me throw one more book out there, and then we'll do a recap. We'll do a Rex cap. All right, Deadpool and Cable #1 and Deadpool versus Thanos #4. We'll call it the Deadpool and somebody set.
Deadpool
and we've got both books for $6 total. Another bargain basement. All right, let's do, if you are a Deadpool fan, this one's for you. All right, so let's do a quick Rex cap. Dynamite 10-pack reader set, as always, 10 random Dynamite titles, $5 for all 10 comics, 50 cents a piece, can't go wrong there.
Nope.
Then we have Red Goblin #1, Dave Raposa incentive variant cover, 1:50 ratio. Find it out in the wild for $125, and we have the one available for $75.
It's amazing to me how the Red Goblin, Golden Goblin, I just didn't really think that this was going to use it for a wrestling term. Right. I really didn't think this was that these versions of this character were going to be over. Clearly, I was wrong, and I'm glad for the creators and people enjoying the book. I was wrong. When I heard this at first, I'm like, really? How far out are they going to go?
Right.
We're going to get Purple Goblin. We're going to get apparently we are, and apparently people are going to dig it. So,
All right.
read
So
on.
then we had the Eternals #1 Giant Size Spectacular from 1991. We have one available for 10. All right. And then we had Action Comics #1050. Alexander Lozano wraparound cardstock incentive variant cover 175 ratio.
That's great work. Man, that's great work.
Finding the Wild for 150, and we have the one available for 75. Then you have Action Comics #1050 Barrio Nuevo incentive variant cover, 1:50 ratio. Finding the Wild for 75, and we have the one available for 50. Let's see. Then we have Action Comics #1050 Steve Rude cardstock variant 1:100 ratio. Finding the Wild for 250. We have the one available for 199.
Steve Rude is, I really like this. I like this cover a lot. Rude has a thing with Superman's cape, and he's done it a few other times.
Right.
He almost envisions Superman using the cape almost like a shield. Because there was a time where Superman's cape was essentially indestructible, like his suit, right? So he would use it back in the day, especially books in the 50s, to protect people. He'd wrap them when he flew at like Mach 9 so they didn't get killed. And I kind of love, he always does this full sort of almost like ballooning effect of the cape. And I like that. I really like that.
And Weird has a question for you.
It's called Superman Lost. Christopher Priest is doing it. I feel bad. I don't remember the artist's name off the top of my head.
I can grab it.
Anything Christopher Priest does, I'm going to take a peek at.
All right. So next up, we had Timeless #1 Dodson incentive variant 1:50 ratio. Finding the Wild for 140, and we have the one available for 100.
The artist is Carlo Pagulan.
Thank you. I didn't remember his name. And yeah, I mean, they've done different versions of Superman. It was a New 52 or one of the other versions. He always had like a weird collar. And I understand why they got rid of like the briefs on the outside. There's a time where every superhero had his underwear on the outside. That was terrible. He was supposed to look like the Circus Strongman or whatever. With 99 out of 100 characters, that's a bad look. With Superman, it works. It just does. And I guess maybe because he's the first to look like that. So when he doesn't have them on, it looks kind of weird. And you always see these kind of versions of Superman from other Earths and this and that or whatever. They always go back to this idea of, his tights and sort of like the briefs.
Right.
I've seen even a couple people, Darwin Cook, he almost turned them into boxers. And I thought that if you really want to put like a 1950s or 60s connotation on Superman, that's how you do it. Because no one would go outside dressed indecently like, when you're in the 1950s. So.
Quail Man, Joseph L. I grew up with Doug.
But yeah, not to necessarily push any particular book this week. But if you're a Superman fan, you've been looking for something different. I felt they kind of, deserved a shout out because let's be honest, Alex, we've all done it. We've talked about Dark Horse and Image and all these other books with all this great, tremendous energy, and then ho hum, we have to talk about Marvel and DC. So I thought I would give them a little bit of a shout out and say, hey, look, this is 2 books. And I'll tell you what might be a sign of the changing times for Marvel. 2 people were having an argument in the comic book store up in Princeton today when I was there. And you know what they were arguing about? Of all characters, Marvel's Hellcat. I don't even know if people remember Patsy Walker. Yeah, sure, she appeared in like Jessica Jones or whatever. But she is like a D-list character. And I say that with not to trash, bag on the character. Hellcat Patsy Walker is a D-list character for Marvel. These 2 people were arguing back and forth about there's a new version of Hellcat today.
Right.
And apparently it's pushed very supernatural with the supernatural characters. And this other person wanted Hellcat to come back. I'm going to say this was 2016, 2017. Kate Leth took a swing at the character. And for a minute, that character in that series was real hot and real popular. And I didn't want to say this, but all I was thinking of is more people like that version of the character, they wouldn't have canceled that book. They only cancel a book when it's not selling.
That's true.
At the time, my niece was like 14, and she thought it was like the coolest thing she'd ever read. The art style was very, it fit Kate Left's interpretation of the character real well. You know what I mean? It was lighthearted, but I just don't, and the book sold for about a year. Yeah. And then all of a sudden the book was late. They had to have, you know what I mean? They had to have fill-in artists, and then they were done. And, I think we all kind of know, especially people, the experience is made up almost entirely of retailers, right? You guys know what that means. The book is late. It's resolicited. There's a guest artist. Something happens. Half the books were delivered. Oh, we're canceling it. Yeah, I knew you were going to cancel it. Like, I knew that. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And I think that book had its little 15 minutes of fame. And for the people who were fans of that, like 2015, 16, right, young adult sort of teen humor, that's great. I mean, I read it. When my niece read it, I felt like I had to read it. It was not for me. But I was super glad she had a comic book that she was like psyched to read over and over again. I think she might have been 13, actually. But you know what I mean? It's 7-ish years later. She's in college now, so it's like 7-ish years later. And I just don't think that unless Kate Left is going to come back and do the book with Brittany, I can't remember the artist's name. I just don't, I don't think that was going to work. Yeah, I mean, Patsy Walker predates the Fantastic Four. She was in those kind of teen books, whatever. Right. And I just don't think you can sell an editor and a publisher on that concept again. You can do it once, but I don't think you can do it twice.
Now, I knew I wasn't going to pick that one up today. I mean, I'm going to be real with you. I'm like very superheroed out right now. It's like Marvel. It all feels like oversaturation. I know it's Marvel. It's superheroes. You're going into it with that expectation, but it's not like the stories are creative or unique. It doesn't feel like there's a lot of effort going into some of these books. Right. And when I see, Hellcat 1 coming out, all I think is just like, why are you, why? You could be doing so much more, like another Spider-Man series. Give the people what they want. They need 11 ASMs. They don't need 10.
Yeah, I think we've talked about this before. I don't want to Marvel bash or DC. I don't really want to do any kind of bashing tonight, which is why I kind of threw out the whole the Superman Lost thing. Right. And
that's why I said though it's me. I'm super burnt out on it. Especially, I'm sure you're going to go this direction with all the indie publishers. All these companies, they're like killing the game with these books. They are on fire. The stories are unique. They're creative. They feel special. I mean, that book I was talking about earlier, No One, there's so much details and there's so much backstory in this first issue. The characters, there's expressions. You feel what they're saying. And it's like, they killed it. They did a phenomenal job. I don't care what this book costs. This book could have cost like $6.99. I would have bought that anyway. It was an oversized issue too. That's the cool part. And I think it was a regular price. But they did such a phenomenal job on it, and they're building an entire universe in the Massiverse. It's like you go to that and you go back to, I'd hate to throw Thor out there, but like Thor, it's like, or no, Hulk came out this week, the series that did get canceled from Marvel. It's like you read that and you read, say, No One right after that. There's literally no comparison. It's night and day difference of the quality, overall the quality, artwork, storytelling, book itself. It's just great stuff coming out from the indie publishers.
I don't think you'll ever see this again, but I would love to see a year and a half where Marvel and DC only did one book for each character. I would really love to see one Batman book and see what that does. Now, I understand they can put Batman on anything and people will try it, right? However, I would love to see what one. So thank you, Stevie B. Thanks, really
Stevie
nice.
B. That's really very cool.
I'd like to see what one Superman book looks like in a month. Like, who are you going to write and draw this book? One Green Lantern book. And I'd be fine with a Green Lantern Corps book, too. I actually love when they do the Green Lantern Corps. I love sort of seeing the interaction of the different Green Lanterns. But I would sort of love to see one book with, like, John Stewart as the Green Lantern. I'd like to see how that plays out.
All right, so just remind everybody, Nick will be on Friday. at 7 p.m. Eastern for his original art show. I'll be on Robbie's channel, PCP, for our normal noon show. And I just want to end it on this note. Wherever you are right now, whatever you're doing right now, go find your loved ones, give them a big hug.
Yeah.
Okay. Ron, if you watch this at a later time, know that you have a room full of friends that are behind you and support you. I wish there was something that we could do to make any of this better for you, but there isn't. But that we are here for you. I love this community. As I said, John and I had no idea what direction we were going in when we started this over a year ago, a year and a half ago, and here we are. I feel like I've met some real friends, and and we have.
Yeah, I mean, this kind of becomes part of our lives now.
It does.
You know what I mean?
Every Monday and every Wednesday. So give your loved ones a big hug. Time is short. Believe me.
Yeah, I mean, thanks everybody for joining us. Today's episode was a little, different. I'm sure Nick will probably maybe speak a little bit more about this on Friday. Yeah. For the people who contributed something for Ronald.
Yeah,
thanks so much, man. I mean, that's
John
Spilios,
cool. Preston, Stevie B, all you guys.
Thank you so much.
Everybody, thank you for the kind words.
Alec, thanks for joining us. People check out his channel.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? We touch on things here, which he sort of does a little bit more. He has the time and the ability to do a little bit more, a deep dive on a lot of. Plus, he really kills it with the shorts he does for Dynamite. I love those. I don't know if I told you this before.
Oh, thank you.
Shorts you do for Dynamite are very cool. Very cool.
So
I appreciate that.
Thanks, everyone. We'll see you later in the week. We'll see you on Monday.
And I don't know, what do we have next on the experience?
I'm not sure. JD,
do you know what we have next?
It's 3T Talking Treats Trivia with Chuck Bonneau.
There you go.
So stay tuned for that. We'll be back. Check out Robbie's channel. He's doing a ton of, for him, just like Ed Weird, for Robbie, every month is Halloween season.
Halloween's the best.
Halloween is the best. I don't know
Love
if anybody has a problem with that. Rex and I will be back on Monday, man, and we'll kind of get this thing
be safe.
Back to where it was before. Thanks for joining us, everybody.
Be safe.
Thanks, everybody.
Do you remember what it was like when you were a little kid and you got a letter in the mail? Now imagine that letter was filled with information about your favorite shows, pop culture questions, links to things you're going to want to see later, and even sneak peeks at upcoming programming here on The Experience. That's what the EXP mailing list is. Every week, we send you sneak peeks, information, and all of the relevant links for all of the shows you want to see. Sign up now on our website or scan the QR code that's on your screen right now.